Welcome to the WiseTake DFS Podcast. I am your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined here once again by Matt Amen. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Amen123. Matt, how we doing tonight?
We're doing okay. I went all in on the Tigers tonight, and they did okay. I had too much James McCann, and it looked like he might have broke his hand on a getting hit by a pitch tonight, so that hurt me. He only had 2 points. And I had some Robbie Ray, I had some Pomerantz, but I didn't quite have enough of them in the right spot. So looks like it'll be a profitable evening, but nothing special.
Yeah, hey man, being profitable is good though. I know it's not what you're looking for. You tournament players are obviously playing for massive ceilings. So,
Yes.
But hey man, anytime you're playing all those tournaments, you can come out on the positive end. Then you're doing something right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
well,
man.
It's actually been good lately. As I interrupt you, you talked me into about 2 weeks ago starting to play cash games. So I've been playing cash games every day, and that's actually been going really well. So I thank you for talking me into doing that.
Well, it's funny because like when we first met and you told me about your poker background, I know you used to play poker professionally before before the dark days, or whatever they call them. And you mentioned to me that in their poker games, like cash was your thing. And I was like, hey, whoa, you're not playing cash DFS though, and and I got your point. And then, but I'm glad you were able to further research it and decide and actually decide that it was something you wanted to try. And I know that you've been plus EV, so that's always a good thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, you told me it seems like you're always on the chalk, which is true. It makes sense for me to get in cash games and play the chalk, and then maybe leverage off of it a little bit in my tournaments.
Hey man, that's phenomenal. I did okay today. Yesterday, man. Me and you were talking all day, and I told you I tried my best to sell you on Flores. Told you how much I love Flores, and then I punked out and I pivoted to Longoria, who did nothing while Flores scored 22 phantom points.
Gosh, you gotta trust your gut, man. I mean, that's like rule number 1 of DFS. Trust your gut. Don't listen to anybody else.
You're right. And I fell out. And it wasn't even listen. I listened to myself. I talked to like you didn't push Longoria on me. You didn't say a word to me about Longoria. It's like
right.
I don't know where I got it from, man. I guess it happens. Anyway, man. On a positive note, the WiseTake model that I've been talking about. I've been dropping little hints of it. It's currently being worked on. It's doing pretty well in the test run. So the test over the last couple of days, we're amping up the tests and testing out some lineups based off of it. It's doing well. So that's the little tidbit update on that. But that's all I got for you in that regard. Okay.
I'm excited to see it. Get that thing out. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, man. We got a team working on it and we're getting ready, man. You ready to talk some baseball?
I'm ready. It's a really exciting slate. After today, your options were limited. This slate on Friday is loaded, and there's lots of ways to go.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, and I'm excited to dive in, man, because it's an interesting one. It's a core slate. It's also a slate with elite pitching. So some decisions are gonna have to be made.
Yep, that's for sure. And go ahead. We'll just start.
I don't know. You got something? Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say there's elite pitching, but there's also a lot of mid-tier pitching that I think is viable also.
Yeah, that's a great point for sure. All right, let's get started. We got Luis Perdomo of the San Diego Padres visiting Mad Max Scherzer of the Washington Nationals, the same Nationals that probably disappointed most of the early slate players today. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, they really burnt me this morning. I took the kids to school this morning. I'd saved my 20 entries for the 4 Max, and as I left my house this morning, I said, okay, the Pirates and the Rays are my teams, and that's what I'm going with. And by the time I got home from the kids to school, I talked myself into the Nationals, and that was a bad decision because it brought me off the Pirates, who were the team of the morning. So shame on me for not following my gut like you did with Wilmer. But anyways, on to this game. No doubt about it, Max is the top option tomorrow at pitcher, and he'll definitely be my cash game pitcher on FanDuel for sure. The Padres are terrible. They strike out a lot, and Max is the best pitcher on this slate, and it's, at home, and the wind's probably there, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the other side, Perdomo is not very good. The Nationals are in a pretty good spot here. The only problem is Perdomo does do a decent job of keeping the ball on the ground, but the Nationals, I think, have plenty of hitters to get to him regardless. Anthony Rendon has been on an absolute tear lately. So, if you want to ride the hot hand there, and he'll be at much lower ownership than today just because it's such a big slate with so many good options. So I like the Nationals bats here, and Max is really good.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. Scherzer, there's not much I need to say on him, but there's stuff I'm gonna. Just to show you, over the last couple of years with Max Scherzer, when he's at home, 12 K per nine, 32.25% K rate, 274 WOBA, and I can go on and on. Against righties, a 230 WOBA against righties. This guy is just phenomenal. Schimpf is a lefty you might be concerned about, but he strikes out a ton. So to me, I just see another strikeout in Schimpf. And listen, Scherzer might give up a home run or two. That's what he does. But he's going to catch you the 8, 9, 10 strikeouts, 11 strikeouts, whatever it is. So I think like you nailed it in cash games, Matt. Mac, you don't. I know it's cores, but you don't want to fade a Max Scherzer in cash. And there's other elite options. He is by far the safest. And if you fade him in cash, you will probably regret it, and you're going to have to sweat a little more than you probably should. On the other side, I think the Nats are a great team to go back to. Like you mentioned, their ownership's going to be down because it's a big slate and because of the fact that they did burn everybody today. I know in cash games, Zimmerman, Murphy, and especially Trey Turner, they were super chalk, and none of them delivered. None of them came through. So now that there's other options, I feel like these people are going to take that and run with it. And listen, like it's not just about game theory. Perdomo on the road over the last couple of years has a 345 WOBA, but he's been bad on the road. So I'm with you, man. I'm all about Washington. I'm all over Scherzer. I like their bats, and I don't want anything to do with the Padres in any fashion.
No Padres.
All right. So we got Kendall Graveman of the Oakland Athletics visiting Masahiro Tanaka of the New York Yankees. Looks like it's going to be about 71 degrees or so. So finally, should be a little clear over here in New York. Go ahead, Matt.
I'll tell you what, if you're looking for some under-the-radar sneaky stack, I really like Oakland tomorrow. If you look at Tanaka's game logs, he's been really bad. He's been getting hit hard. He's been giving up a ton of home runs. 3 and 4 home runs in each of his last 2 starts. I think there's something wrong with him. I think there's something broken. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the start where the A's, hang 7 runs and 3 home runs on him. And then tomorrow we see, Tanaka to the DL. So I think that's a sneaky spot. I have no interest in Tanaka. And then on the other side, obviously no interest in Graveman against a Yankees team that's really good. I think they might be first or second in the league in home runs, and I think they're first in home runs at home. The Yankees are in a really good spot. I don't know, even having said that, if they're going to be one of my top stacks on the day, just because Graveman does do like Perdomo, except maybe a little bit better. He does a pretty good job of keeping the ball on the ground. So, he hasn't had a single game this year where he's given up more than 2 home runs. So, the Yankees are certainly in play and in a good spot here, but I don't think they'll be on the top of my list.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I have a little bit more interest in the Yankees on a tournament standpoint, just because of the fact that I know you're right. Graveman has been keeping it on the ground. However, it's just the ballpark. I mean, his road numbers go along with what you would expect from a guy pitching in Oakland. His road numbers are significantly worse. It makes sense. And now you put him in a ballpark like New York. Then the Yankees had a day off yesterday out of the blue because of the rain. And so my problem with Graveman is he don't strike anybody out. On the road over the last 2 years, so I'm looking at a sample size, 2 years total, about 60 starts or so, around 14% K rate. That's terrible. And listen, the Yankees are a team that this year they do strike out a ton. So one thing I'll say, though, is I'm kind of with you on the A's. I don't mind them. Do I love the A's? They're not one of my favorite stacks, but in a sneaky tournament snack, I think they're interesting. You mentioned about Tanaka, and you're right. He has not looked good. Not to mention where you want to attack Tanaka typically is at home. Home is where he typically struggles, and probably also, again, because of the ballpark he plays in. But I'm with you, man. I'm more so on the bats. I'm not really crazy about Tanaka. I don't want Graveman. So I have interest in both sides here, but probably more so the Yankees just because, like I said, Graveman doesn't strike anybody out. But there's so many good bats, and I think I know some of the bats you're going to like more. So I could see why the Yankees aren't that high on your radar.
Right.
All right, we got Jacob deGrom. My Jacob deGrom. He got scratched today, man. That bummed me out, man. I thought my slate was going to be easy, and then I thought my night was going to be easy. And anyway, Jacob deGrom of my New York Mets visiting Chad Kuhl of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to pivot off Scherzer for whatever reason, just to be different, I mean, I think DeGrom is in a good spot here. Pittsburgh, even though they've been hot the last few days in Atlanta, aren't necessarily an offense to fear. They don't have a lot of lefties. And DeGrom's been striking them out left and right this season. So I think, he's a decent contrarian play. I certainly prefer Scherzer and Cash to DeGrom, but I think he is a good pivot in tournaments. And then on the other side, Cool is terrible. He's especially bad to lefties. He's really, really bad against lefties, and we know that the Mets have a bunch of lefties. I certainly think Conforto will be one of the top plays tomorrow. He's been really hot. And then, just all these other Mets lefties, Jay Bruce, Reyes, Duda, Cabrera, what's the second baseman's name?
Walker. Neil Walker.
Yeah, Neil Walker. Curtis Granderson. All these guys are in good spots. So I like the Mets a lot here.
Yeah, I think that the Mets are a great tournament stack. I'll say that first. Now, about my boy DeGrom, you know how much I love DeGrom. His home and road numbers are significant enough that I don't think I'm going to be playing him. Now, I will say from an ownership perspective, he's definitely going to be low owned for the simple fact that he's only $800 cheaper than Scherzer. So I feel like people are just going to play Scherzer because it's kind of known already. The Pirates are a terrible offense, but they don't strike out as much as the Padres do. So I think that from a tournament standpoint, yeah, DeGrom does make sense. Now, I do want to say we talked about DeGrom's numbers at home last night. On the road, it's a little bit different. It's not bad. He's still DeGrom. But last night at home, you saw an 11K per 9. On the road, he's got a 9K per 9 over the last 2 years. So his WOBA goes up slightly, about 4.34% or so. So listen, it's still Jacob DeGrom. He's still good at baseball, and the Pirates is still pretty bad at baseball, and now they're coming back home into this ballpark. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. Again, you hit it right on the head. Scherzer's my cash game guy. I'm not thinking about it. That's it. But in tournaments, if you want to get a little different, like Matt said, he certainly makes sense. With that said, I don't want any Pirates bats, but I love the Mets bats here, especially in tournaments. They're going to go overlooked simply because it's a park, right? Like people don't like to play guys in this park, and it makes sense. Like we would never recommend like that you sit here and every single day play, people in this park in your cash games. I'm not going there in cash. In cash, there's plenty of other places to go that are just safer. But I mean, as far as tournaments and upside, you want to talk about Chad Cole. Anytime you target Chad Cole with lefties, especially at home, apparently where he's been significantly worse over the last couple of years. Again, give me all the Mets bats, lefties and righties, but especially the lefties, like you said, man. He's been really, really bad to lefties. So I'm with it, man. Give me Conforto. Conforto is probably the only guy that I maybe would play in cash, or maybe Duda just because if he bats fourth or fifth, just because of the price. But I'm with you, man. It's going to be interesting. But the Mets are definitely a sneaky stack tomorrow. I don't think they're going to be too popular. Let's see. We got Tim Adelman of the Cincinnati Reds visiting Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think, this is an interesting spot for Aaron Nola. We know that this guy has a ton of talent. He has really nasty stuff. But the Reds are a pretty good offense, and they don't strike out very much. And Nola, is only making a second start, after coming back from injury. So I don't think I'm going to go there tomorrow. And there's other options in this mid-range I like more. And then, Adelman is not very good, but the Phillies aren't very good. But Adelman's certainly not good enough to play. Are the Phillies a powerful enough offense to win you this slate tomorrow? I don't think so. So I probably won't go there. But if you wanted to go to some of these one-offs, I mean, Aaron Altherr has been hot, or, Maikel Franco is cheap, or Cesar Hernandez is cheap, and Saunders and all these guys. I think, that would be fine, but I don't think it's somewhere I'm going to go.
Yeah. I think that you made a great point about Nola for sure. Nola is good, and I like Nola a lot. I just don't like him in this spot. I know it's the Reds, and a lot of people are going to think, hey, it's the Reds. They're bad at baseball, but they have too many hitters that are decent, especially like Joe Votto, for instance. There's just too many guys on that team that are threatening. You're in a smaller ballpark. Now, I will say Nola's home splits are better than his righty split, his away splits overall. But still, it's still not a great ballpark. There's Boba still, in the 300s or against lefties and righties both, even at home. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. Joey Votto in tournaments, if you want to give that a try, I think that's fine. Billy Hamilton, Schebler's been doing well, but as much as I like Nola, we're gonna have to find him in the right matchup. His K upside is certainly there. I mean, at home, he's a 10K per 9, 26.6% kind of guy, but it's just the Reds, like you said, Matt. The Reds aren't one of those teams that that you want to really target too much against, especially not in a ballpark like this. Now, as far as the Phillies hitters, I don't mind targeting Adelman. I don't have much on him as far as sample size goes, but he seems so far in his career, his young career, he seems to have some interesting righty splits. Maybe Tommy Joseph, Altair. They'll definitely go overlooked. I think the bats in this game in general might go overlooked. So, I think it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I also want to point out, you say that everyone's like, well, the Reds are bad. And that's true. The Reds aren't a good baseball team, but it's not because their hitters aren't good. They're 6th in the league in runs scored. They're bad because their pitching is bad.
That's a great point. It's 100%. You're absolutely right. It's not because they're pitching. I mean, it's not because they're hitting. It's because they're pitching. Okay. So we got AJ Griffin of the Texas Rangers visiting Mike Balsinger of the Toronto Blue Jays. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great game to find a lot of hitters. AJ Griffin has been pretty bad. We know he's a fly ball pitcher. He's been giving up a lot of home runs. And he's not very good to lefties, so you can look to Justin Smoke, and you can look to Kendrys Morales, and you can even look to Ezekiel Carrera at a really, really cheap price, $2,700 on DraftKings. So I like the Jays. And then on the other side, we know Bolsinger's not very good either. And we know that the Rangers have a lot of lefty power to take advantage of him. So, Mazzara and Gallo and Odor are certainly all in really good spots. So I love all the hitters in this game. This will be one of my top games to target for hitting.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I want nothing to do with either of these pitchers. They're both #bad, as you like to say, and they also, both of them have pretty severe splits to lefties, like pretty bad. Like they're really bad against lefties, especially in their respective spots. Now I will say AJ Griffin. One thing I'll make a case on his behalf is so far over the last 2 years on the road against righties, he's got a 275 WOBA. It's not terrible. However, it's 416 to lefties. So yeah, any lefty that plays, Morales is a cheap first baseman. I think if you're trying to play Scherzer, you could certainly look to him in this ballpark against Griffin. Like you mentioned, Matt, big fly ball guy. Justin Smoke is a guy you mentioned earlier. I heard you mention it before the show. And then on the other side with Bolsinger, man, the lefties, Odor, Mazzara, these are your cheaper guys. So I think in cash, I might have found a couple guys that are cheaper in great spots that I might want to play.
Yeah.
All right, we got Giovanni Gallardo of the Seattle Mariners visiting Eduardo Rodriguez, the lefty from the Boston Red Sox. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think Eduardo Rodriguez is interesting here. He's been really good this year. His price is really good. I usually don't like targeting the Mariners, but they have seemed to be in a bit of a funk, since Cano got hurt. I know he's back now, but they haven't seemed the same since he got hurt. And they've just kind of seemed to be struggling overall. So with as good as Erod has been, I think I have some interest tomorrow. He's part of the kind of the mid-range of pitchers that I like. And then on the other side, Gallardo has been really bad lately. He's been getting lit up quite a bit, and it seems like this Red Sox offense is starting to come on. So I like the Red Sox bats here. Xander Bogaerts hit his first home run of the season today, but he's so expensive on DraftKings. I don't think I could go there, but I do like Mookie Betts and Moreland and Benintendi and Jackie Bradley, the lefties. I would consider stacking them up here against Gallardo.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Rodriguez has some decent stuff, and I mentioned it the other day that if you want to attack Seattle, you want to do it with lefties. I think it was yesterday actually, and Gio had a good game today. I'll say that. Nelson Cruz eventually hit a bomb, but Gio did fine. He was safe enough. But this is not a ballpark that I typically want to go after. Not here. The weather's maybe a slight drizzle, but 61 degrees. It's going to be humid up there too. I just don't think I want to go there against the Seattle team. They're still dangerous. Nelson Cruz is a monster against lefties. He had terrible BVP against Gio, and he still hit one out today. So,
but he did hit it off the bullpen though. It wasn't off Gio.
Oh, was it off the bullpen?
Yeah, it was off the bullpen.
Oh, I thought it was off Gio. That was my bad. Okay. So yeah, I mean, we know he's a lefty master. I love the Red Sox offense for sure. Now, one thing that's going to be interesting, if you look over your stats for Gallardo, if you do your research, and if you do your split research with his home and away splits, and you see that he's been better on the road, keep in mind he was playing in a hitter's ballpark for majority of at that time. He just came to he was Baltimore and the Brewers, correct?
Yeah, that's
right. Those are two hitting ballparks. So either way, with whichever team he was on over the last couple of years, most of it was not at Seattle. So I expect to see that number shift. I expect to see him do better at home now because now he's in Seattle. And this is a situation where he's going to be in Boston, which is a hitter's ballpark. I expect him to get blown up a little bit here. So I'm definitely with you. I like the bats from both sides, but especially the Red Sox for sure. Let's see. Okay, we got Fuego's boy, Jesse Chavez, visited of the Los Angeles Angels.
Of Anaheim.
I almost messed that one up. Visiting Dan Straley of the Miami Marlins. It looks like we. Oh no, they have the roof. They have the roof. Go ahead, Matt. I caught myself.
The roof.
They have the roof.
Yeah. I love Dan Straley in this spot. I know you're surprised, but he's had some really good starts this year. He's had some starts where he has 8 strikeouts in his last start against the Dodgers. Of course, he had that 14 strikeouts against the Padres, but in between, he's been pretty decent. He's put up a lot of decent games, and he gets to face a mainly righty-heavy Angel team who loses the DH coming into this National League park, and it's a good park for pitchers on top of that. So at 7,500 on DraftKings, I have a lot of interest in Straley in this spot. It's pretty interesting. We have Scherzer and we have DeGrom up there real high, but there's so many pitchers I'm interested in the mid-tier. I think in tournaments I might not go up high and just kind of, rotate in 5 or 6 of these mid-range guys and then just be able to pay up for the bats I want. I kind of think with all the offense on this slate, I think you're going to need the offense to win. But back to this game on the other side, I don't think you're going to need Jesse Chavez, and I just don't think he quite has the strikeout upside in this spot to give me what I want. And then on the batting side, you can always play Mike Trout. I'm not going to do it tomorrow just because, I just said I like Straley and I don't like the Angels offense, and I'm predominantly a stacking player, so no Mike Trout. And then on the Marlins side, if you want to fish for a home run, a Stanton or an Ozuna or Bour or Yelich, are all fine, but they won't be towards the top of my list tomorrow.
I think I'm with you on Straley, man. And listen, I've been a Straley hater as of late. I just didn't like the fact that he was good. But you know what? The numbers all finally updated, and I'm looking at what he's doing it, man. The guy's he seems to be good. And over the last 2 years, at home, he's got a 7K per 9, 20.19%. That's not bad. It's really not. I would consider that to be, depending on his matchup, I would consider that to have some K upside. His home WOBA over the last 2 years is 270. Again, not bad at all. His WOBA against lefties at home, 262, and against righties, 276. So all his numbers are significantly better at home, and he's pitching at home in Miami, a known pitcher's park. So I love Straley. I think he's a great cheap option, and GPPs, I definitely think he's probably my favorite guy at this level. Now listen, the Angels, we always talk about, your Angels don't strike out a ton, but they're also not a good team offensively, and they can strike out. We've seen them have games where they do strike out. So it's not something where it's like you love to throw pitchers against them for strikeout upside, but I think Straley's going to give you a little bit of safety. Obviously, you have to worry about Mike Trout, but they're going to provide you with a little bit of safety, and obviously he's cheap, so you'll be able to afford whatever bats you want, and there's plenty of bats. As far as the Miami side, I love the Miami bats here simply because they've got a 4.6 projected run total, and nobody's going to play them. There's just so many other good spots. Nobody's going to go here, despite the fact that Jesse Chavez is terrible on the road. And when I say terrible, I'm talking about a 269 WOBA on the road over the last 2 years, 390 against lefties, 346 against righties. So I'm a little higher on Miami. Again, it's going to be, for me, I don't know if I'm going to take him in cash necessarily, just because there's so many other better spots that are more obvious that I think I'd rather go. But in tournaments, I think the Miami offense is certainly in play.
Yeah, one thing I do want to point out is, the Angels don't strike out that much, and that's true. But it is nice that they get to add a pitcher into the lineup this time. And you would think, with Jesse Chavez up there batting, that, they might get a few more strikeouts in there tomorrow for Straley.
What? That's a great point, Matt. That's huge, and that makes me like Straley even more for tournaments. I wouldn't be surprised. I think anybody who doesn't use Scherzer, I'd be surprised if they didn't use Straley, because it's like if you're going to pay up, you're going to use Scherzer, and if you're not going to pay up, then you might as well. Straley's clearly probably the best option in this tier, when you consider everything.
Yep.
So Regardless of which one's chalkier or which, I don't care. I'm still gonna play Scherzer in cash, and I'm still probably gonna play Traley in tournaments. So, so it don't matter. But yeah, man, I think you made a great point about the Angels. That's the thing. When you look at those WOBA stats, remember, most of the time they have a DH. That helps. Those K rates and all that, it helps. So they don't get that, man. I'm with you, brother. I think that was a great call right there. Yep. All right, we got Ian Kennedy of the Kansas City Royals visiting Mike Clevenger of the Cleveland Indians. Go ahead, Matt.
Boy, there is a lot of options on the slate. I guess first Clevenger, I think he's interesting. He pitched a gem his last time out against Houston, 7 innings and 8 strikeouts, no runs, only 2 hits, 33 DraftKings points. And a couple starts ago earlier in the year, he faced this Kansas City team and put up a pretty good game. So at 8,000 on DraftKings, it's like I like Straley more, but I certainly think Clevenger's in play. And that's like what I was saying, like, when you need to pay up for bats, I don't mind a Clevenger Straley, an Erod Straley, an Erod Clevenger. We're going to get to a few more guys later. So I think it's interesting in tournaments. On the other side, no Ian Kennedy for me. I don't like pitching right-handed pitchers against Cleveland. They just have too many good lefties for me to want to attack. And also, he's a fly ball pitcher who's not very good. So I think the Indian bats are in play here. Kennedy always gives up a home run or two. So I think the Indians are interesting here, in E5, Brantley, Lindor, Kipnis, Santana. All these guys are in a decent spot. So I like the Cleveland bats here.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Clevenger is certainly interesting. It makes you think like with this pitching options. I think on DraftKings, Clevenger may be more valuable to you because of Straley on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, like you said, man, Straley, Clevenger, I think that it's something you have to consider, man. Listen, the Cleveland ballpark is not notorious for hitting. It's not the best ballpark, but it's not the worst. It's not going to kill you. On top of that, we don't have much of a sample size on Clevenger. He is young and he's still pretty new. But what we've seen so far, man, he's been pretty solid. I mean, he is a reverse splits guy from what we've seen. But against lefties, 229. That's pretty good. And against righties, just 368, which is something you would expect him to control because the righties on Kansas City aren't that great outside of like Kane and obviously Perez. It's just not a scary looking lineup. So this is a team where, you got Moose, Hosmer, Moss, Gordon. These are some of your home run hitters. And I think that Clevenger can kind of navigate that. So I don't mind Clevenger at all. And he's got the K upside. I mean, he's averaging at home 9 Ks per 9. So on the other side with Kennedy, I don't like Kennedy in this spot. You mentioned it. The only pitchers I'll play against the Indians are typically lefties. I don't like playing righties against them unless it's a Max Scherzer type. Now, one thing is interesting about Kennedy, and this is something I mentioned to you before the show. As you know, the WiseTake model we've been working on is heavily, it's big on sample size and it's big on splits, home splits, away splits for pitchers as well as lefty righty, and for hitters more lefty righty. So one thing about Kennedy I wanted to mention to you is his road WOBA is 326 for one over the last 2 years now. His WOBA to lefties is 306 on the road. His WOBA to righties on the road is 351, and that's over 2 years for Ian Kennedy. So I think it's interesting. I do still like the Cleveland lefties. Obviously, it's hard not to like Lindor, Brantley, Kipnis, Santana, but I like E5 a lot here, man. I think he could be a sneaky tournament guy. I don't think I'd do it in cash because there's too many better guys in better situations. But right now when you look at that lineup, you see all these lefties in a row. Then all of a sudden you kind of skip over E5. I feel like Santana is going to be the guy people might go to because he's got the lefty splits. But I think I might like E5 here. I just want to throw that out there.
A good call.
All right, here we go. We got the gas can, Kevin Gausman of the Fuego's Baltimore Orioles visiting Joe Musgrove of the Houston Astros. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, on a lot of slates, Musgrove has kind of been in play for me this year. I think he's got a lot of talent, but I don't think on this slate with all these other mid-range options that I like, I need it. Baltimore has a lot of power. They do strike out sometimes, but I think that Baltimore gets the better of Musgrove tomorrow. It'll be interesting. The roof was open today in Houston, and we saw in that game that it made a pretty big difference. So that's something you want to keep your eye out on for tomorrow. On the other side, we know that the gas can is really bad, and I think that the Astros are my favorite offense of the day tomorrow. We know Gausman is a little bit reverse splits, and he faces a very right-handed Astro teams that all their righties seem to be reverse splits too. So I think it's kind of the perfect storm here, and I really, really like the Astros bats here. I think the Oriole bats, and they're really cheap. All the bats are really cheap in this game. I think that the Orioles are in play also, certainly.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. You made a great point about Musgrove. We have a small sample size on him because he is fairly new, but you made a great point. The situations to play him, there's so many other options I think are better. You don't have to. I will say he does seem to have somewhat of a K upside. So far at home, I'm seeing a 9K per 9. His WOBA is typically better at home. It's 316, which isn't great, but it's 7.26% better than when he's on the road. So got to give him that. All his numbers for his splits, he's significantly better against lefties at home. We're talking an 11.64% differential, and even against righties, a 3.77 differential. Now those numbers aren't great; they're still above 300. But he's young and it's a small sample size, so he's got a lot to prove us. So I do like him. But again, like you said, these are hitting conditions right here, especially in Houston. If they keep that roof open, which I think they will, because today was similar weather and they did, we're talking about 85 degrees at 8 o'clock at night, 72% humidity. That ball, if that roof is open, that ball will fly. And it's already kind of a hitter's park down there because of the natural weather and atmosphere down there. You add in some of that humidity to that heat. I love the bats in this game. More so the Astros. I'm with you there. But you're right. I like the Orioles a little more. And cash, I'm all over the Astros. Maybe not Baltimore as much in cash because there's other places we can go. But Houston and cash is like, to me, that's just like, I feel so safe with that. Gas can. You want to talk about splits? As we mentioned, let's talk about a 358 road WOBA over the last 2 years. That's a 6.9% negative differential. You mentioned reverse splits. 305 WOBA against lefties. 403 against righties on the road. Yeah, Matt, I think you hit it right on the head, man. Give me the righties, man. I want Springer, Altuve, Correa. I want all those guys. Gaddis, give me all of them. And you know what? I'll take the lefties because 305 is not great either. So I'll take them on both sides. I love Houston altogether, and I definitely like Baltimore too. The bats all the way. Let's see. It looks like we're gonna have Matt Boyd of the Detroit Tigers, the lefty, visiting Tyler Danish. Makes me a little hungry, of the Chicago White Sox. Could have some rain here. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh yeah, is this game on FanDuel? I don't see it on DraftKings at all.
Oh, they didn't put it on DraftKings?
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You know what?
It's the second game of a doubleheader.
Yes, you're correct. On FanDuel, they skipped the 5 o'clock, but they do have the 8 o'clock on there. I mean, it's 60% chance of rain, 62 degrees. It's Chicago White Sox. It's Detroit. It's I don't know Tyler Danish. He doesn't even have a price. So this must be his first start.
All right. Well, if the game does play, some righties on the White Sox will be interesting because Boyd's nothing special. I think he's another guy who has some walk issues. So guys on the White Sox like Abreu's been hot. Avisail Garcia mashes lefties. I think they'll be interesting. And then I don't know anything about Danish, so it's hard for me to speak on that. But I can tell you that JD Martinez has been mashing the ball. So he's good at baseball, and I think he'll make for a good play in this small ballpark in Chicago. But other than that, I didn't prep for this game, so I don't have a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Matt, there's not even that much to really prep for. We don't know anything about Danish anyway, so that's something that, listen, we can look up on Fangraphs, tomorrow at some point, and we could talk about his minor league stats or whatever it's worth. But hey, listen, the big leagues is a different story. So we'll see how he does tomorrow. I know that Vegas doesn't seem to have too much confidence in this guy. I see that Detroit's got a 4.9 projected run total. So I think Detroit bats are certainly in play. We were all over them tonight, and they did well, so I would expect them to carry that over. You mentioned JD Martinez. He's been red hot. And on the other side, the White Sox are in play too because Boyd has not been good. He's been worse on the road. And he hasn't even been good to begin with, but he's been even worse on the road. And the White Sox is a hit. Chicago's a hitting ballpark over there for the White Sox. So, yeah, I think all the bats in this game are in play. We know the bullpen problems for Detroit. Load up on all the bats pretty much in this game. Okay, we got Zach Godley of the Arizona Diamondbacks visiting Junior Guerrera. Guerrera. Okay, Guerrera of the Milwaukee Brewers. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the first start for Guerra since maybe opening day. So it's interesting, and I think I'm gonna like the Arizona bats. I mean, Guerra was a decent pitcher last year, but in his first start back from injury, you're obviously not gonna play him, and that makes me like the Arizona bats here a decent bit. I mean, Jake Lamb burned everybody today, but it's a good spot to go right back to the well here. The Diamondbacks are pretty expensive, so maybe they won't be, one of my top plays, but they're certainly in play. And then on the other side, I think Zach Godley's in play. The Brewers strike out a lot. And if you want to go here for your starting pitcher 2 on DraftKings to pay up for all the bats or maybe get Coors Field, I think Godley's certainly in play. He's been pretty decent. He's had some pretty good starts. So at 6,300, I think he's in play. But having said that, there's no reason on the other side, Eric Thames can't take him deep, or VR couldn't get on base and steal a couple bases, or Travis Shaw couldn't have a good game. It does stink for the Brewers that Ryan Braun went back on the DL today. So that would, of course, lower my interest in a Brewers stack as a whole. And I don't think it'll be one of my favorite plays at all. I definitely like the Arizona side a lot more here.
Yeah, for sure. Now the thing about Junior is we don't know where he's at. This is his first start of the year. I can see that over the last 20, the sample size that I have of him over the last 21 games or so, he's pitched well, especially at home. 293 WOBA at home, 237 against lefties, and 237 against righties, 297 against lefties, and 262 at home. So again, it's a small sample size. We don't know. Not to mention he hasn't pitched at all this year, so we still got to see what he's got and what kind of shape he's in, where he's at. And you don't really want to mess around with Arizona because they got so many of those power bats, and they got a couple lefties that could really hurt you in Peralta and Lamb. So as far as playing them, no, I don't want to play Junior, but I can see the merit if somebody wants to take a shot because Arizona does strike out. You have to be concerned. You don't know how long he's going to be able to go. Even if he pitches well, they might have a pitch limit, so you're going to have to look into that. But he was good at one time. It's Arizona. I think they're certainly in play. I'm not going here in cash because both pitchers are respectable enough that I think they have the potential to shut the other team down. However, this is a hitter's ballpark. So in tournaments, I think you can take a stance if you want to and play some of these guys. Like Godley's been really good, and Godley's numbers look like they're better on the road. Keep in mind, his entire career so far has been in Arizona. So most of the other stadiums are better pitching environments. This is not one of those cases. Milwaukee's another hitter's park. So I do like Milwaukee. I think guys like Thames and Shaw and VR, they're certainly in play against Godley. But at the same time, I respect him enough to, like I said, I'm not going to play any of these guys from either team in cash because I respect these pitchers too much. But in tournaments, I think you can certainly look here for bats for sure. We got Chris Archer of the Tampa Bay Rays visiting Hector Santiago, the lefty from the Minnesota Twins. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, we'll talk about an interesting tournament pivot off the expensive, Scherzer or DeGrom. Archer's interesting. He's had double-digit strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 games. And Minnesota's a team that doesn't necessarily scare you, and they do have some strikeouts in their lineup. But for me, I don't think I'm going to go there only because, Archer's much better at home. And, I just feel safer with those other 2. So if I'm paying up into this range, I'm going with Scherzer or DeGrom. But I wouldn't talk you out of playing Archer. I think he's totally fine. And then on the other side, I'm not going to play Hector Santiago. I don't think he's any good, even though the Rays strike out. But at the same time, I don't think I necessarily want a Tampa stack there. I prefer them, or I have been preferring them when they face righties this year, just because they have so many power lefties. But if you wanted to go to Steven Souza's been hot, or Longoria is a very fair price, I wouldn't mind either of them.
Yeah. I think that, listen, anytime anybody wants to play Archer against the Twins, it's hard to tell them not to, especially because we know some of their best hitters are right-handed. There's really only 2 or 3 righties they'll have in the lineup, but 2 of those 3 are their best hitters on their team, Dozier and Sano. So that always helps. Not that they can't hit righties, but yeah, like you said, to me it comes down to. Yeah, it's 10-6, but he's only 400 away from DeGrom, and who is only 800 away from Scherzer on FanDuel. So I won't be going there because if Archer was home, forget about it. If Archer was home, I think it's a great deal at 10-6 against Minnesota. But on the road, you mentioned his splits, and they're a thing, man. Like it's under his home WOBA is over the last 2 years is under 300. His road WOBA is 327. Listen, he's still getting his Ks are still there, 10 per 9 for the Ks, but at home, it's like 11 per 9. You're talking about a strikeout percentage from like in the 20s to the 30s. So it does make a difference. And he is significantly worse even in his lefty-righty splits on the road. So do I think he's going to have a good game? Sure, I think he will. I don't think the Twins are going to kill him. But I don't know if he's going to have the same ceiling tonight as like a Max Scherzer or pretty much that's it, Max Scherzer. So if I'm not going to get the full discount off Scherzer, I'm going to go with like the Straleys, etc. So Yeah, like you said, I'm not going to be mad at you for playing Archer, but I'm not going there. San Diego's, man, he's shown us some stuff, and it looks like overall he's been a better pitcher at home, but the numbers still aren't great. A 327 WOBA to righties, 310 to lefties, and those numbers are improvements. He's better at home. So I know this year he's doing well, and the Rays strike out a ton, but he also gets hit pretty hard, and the Rays can hit the ball pretty hard. So I think the Rays could be a sneaky tournament stack here, even though I will admit I'll admit that they're weaker against lefties, but still, like value wise, I mean, you're going to probably get Ricky Weeks here, as your must play outfielder for cheap. So their prices are right. I'm not afraid of San Diego. I'm really not. So all right, we got Carlos Martinez of the St. Louis Cardinals visiting Antonio Senzatella of the Colorado Rockies. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a game that I'm going to fade entirely. I know it's hard to say, oh, I'm going to fade a Coors Field game, but there's so many good offenses today that I think this game is fine to fade. I mean, Carlos Martinez, we know, is a good pitcher. We know he has a good strikeout upside. We know that we don't ever want to play pitchers in Coors Field, so, I don't necessarily want to play him. And then Senzatella has been, pretty decent at keeping the ball on the ground. He has been walking people lately, so that's not good. But also, St. Louis is still playing the Dodgers right now, and it's, it's 10 p.m. Pacific, so they're not going to be getting into Denver until 3 or 4 in the morning. So, we always talk about the first game in Coors Field is always an adjustment and all these things. So if there's ever a spot to fade Coors Field, I think this is a decent spot to do it. So I think, of course, if you want to go there and you want to stack this game, I'm not going to tell you not to. It's totally fine. But I think for me, there's going to be other places I'd rather go.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Seymour's got some crazy numbers against righties on the road, but I'm talking a 252 WOBA. So I'm not big on the Rockies righties here, even though guys like Arenado, Reynolds have been hot. I'm just not big on them. And as far as his lefties, it's still not great. 316, it's not terrible, but still, they only have a couple like Blackman and Gonzalez. Sure, you want to play those guys? Sure. I just don't think you have to. I think, first of all, you made great points as far as the whole, since Senzatella keeping the ball on the ground. You had mentioned that everything you said, it was right on. And then you take that in addition to what you said about the adjustment. Both teams are coming back in. The Cardinals aren't going to land until 3, 4 in the morning probably. It's just like they always say fade the first game in Coors because people got to adjust. And this seems like a great spot because neither of these pitchers are guys that I necessarily want to pick on. And I'm with you, man. I think that this might be a spot where I can comfortably fade Coors, especially with there's so many options. You just don't have to, right?
Yeah, you just don't have to pay these prices with all the pitching there is to pay up for, too.
Yeah, of course, 100%. All right, we got Jake Arrieta of the Chicago Cubs visiting your Los Angeles Dodgers, you and Patio Joe, with Alex Wood on the mound, the lefty. Go ahead, Matt. Tell us about Wood.
Boy, Wood has been sensational. In his last 4 starts, 8 strikeouts, 11, 10, only 4 last start against Miami. But in that start, he went 7 innings, didn't give up any runs. And his ground ball rate's insane. In that start, 19 ground balls, 0 fly balls. In his last 3 starts, he has 33 ground balls to 1 fly ball. That's insane. He's been really good. The Cubs are, of course, they're a potent offense, the defending champions, but they do strike out a fair bit. So you got that working for you. And then it does seem like Wood's pitch count has been rising. That's something we worried about earlier in the year. But, last start, 96 pitches. So, maybe he gets to 100 tomorrow. At 9,600, it is a little steep with all these other elite options. But I still think he's in play. And if you're playing the late slate, the night slate, I think he's a lock. I love him in that slate. On the other side, we all know about Arrieta. He's a really good pitcher. He hasn't been as good this year as he's been in years past, but the strikeouts have still been there. The Dodgers haven't been very good of late, and usually I always say, well, don't pitch righties against the Dodgers, and that's still mostly true, but they haven't been quite as potent of late. And as I always say, the marine layer will be in full effect tomorrow. It has been cool here the last couple days, and it's supposed to be again tomorrow. So I think Arrieta is in play. I like Wood a lot more, but, Arrieta is certainly in play. And then on the bat side, I think the pitching is too good in this game, and there's too many good options today for me to want any bats in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Listen, Arrieta's numbers over the last 2 years are way too impressive for me to really buy that he's this bad this year. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm not going to just force playing him when he's bad. If he's bad, there's something wrong. I'm not going to go there. But I'm not going to read too far into it. When it comes to baseball, you want sample size. And over the last 2 years, he's got a 262 road WOBA, a 258 versus lefties, and 261 versus righties. So I just don't want to pick on him, even though he's been rough. There's too many options. Why would I? I don't have to. And Alex Wood, man, I know I talked about Straley. It's going to be a tough call for my cheap pitcher between Straley and Wood, man. I forgot about Wood. Wood is impressive, man. And I know he's been hurt, but we still have a 49 game sample size for him over the last couple of years. He's got an 8K per 9 at home, which is decent. His WOBA at home has been 257. That's crazy. Versus lefties, 217. Versus righties, 271. The guy has close numbers to Arrieta's road numbers. His home numbers are similar to Arrieta's road numbers. So I feel like the Cubs strike out a ton. We know they do. So I think that Wood makes a lot of sense, especially for tournaments. Obviously, we mentioned in cash you're going unless you're playing cash at night. Wood could be your guy. But yeah, I think I like Wood too, man. 8.6. He's been phenomenal. I think he's been phenomenal for more than people will give him credit for. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm all about the pitchers, no bats here.
I do want to say real quick that I Wood on FanDuel at 8,600 is really good price. He's 9,600 on DraftKings, and like Straley's only 7,500, so really big difference there.
Yeah.
But on FanDuel, where he's 86 and Straley's 85, I much prefer Wood.
Yeah, Wood over Straley.
Yeah, on FanDuel.
On FanDuel, right. And then the other way around on DraftKings because the price.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. All right, last game, we got Jaime Garcia, the lefty from the Atlanta Braves, visiting Matt Cain of the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to play Cain here. He's been okay at home, but he's not very good, and the Braves are just pesky enough. I don't see a lot of strikeout upside in this matchup, so I have no interest in Cain. On the other side, I at least think Jaime Garcia is a little bit interesting. He's been a little bit better of late. He strikes out a few here and there. He does keep the ball on the ground. We do love to target pitchers in this ballpark. The Giants don't strike out a whole lot, but they've been just dreadful at scoring runs. So I could see a 7 innings, 6 strikeouts, get the win sort of start here for Garcia. I don't know if you're going to need it, and I like some of these other guys better, but I don't mind it. I think he's in play at least. And then, on the batter side, I don't think there's any reason to go to this game in this ballpark with all the good options that we have. So I'm not going to be interested in any of the bats in this game.
Yeah, what you just said is exactly how I feel. I personally want nothing to do with this game. Like you said, Matt Cain is okay. He really struggles against lefties, especially at home. 387 WOBA to lefties at home. But the Braves are missing their best lefty, Freddie Freeman, so it's kind of less enticing. That means you're looking at Adams, Markakis. Now, Adams has been hot, but still, it's a big ballpark. There's so many other options. You don't have to go there. Inciarte, Markakis, Adams, Ruiz. It's just you're not crazy about that. In tournaments, you want to try some of those guys for price, like Adams and Ruiz. I get it. But against righties, 295 WOBA, different story in this ballpark. Now, as far as Jaime, his numbers have been significantly worse on the road. 326 WOBA, 301 to lefties. 301 to lefties, that's interesting. And 333 to righties. But, again, the Giants' offense isn't that potent. It's ballparks here. You mentioned about the Marine. It's just why go here? I don't want anything from this game. If you're playing from the late slate, you might have to, and I guess you can really break it down. But I'm probably not going to. And I have no interest in this game whatsoever.
Yep.
All right, Matt. So before we play some Dong Watch here, real quick, why don't you give me 2 teams? Like we know you like Scherzer and cash. Give me like 2 or 3 teams that you would like in maybe cash, and then that you would like in a GPP. We're not gonna hold you to it. Again, guys, just a disclosure: Matt does most of his research tomorrow because he's a normal human being. He's not gonna do he's got to spend each day working about the slate. So when he wakes up tomorrow, and he's in California, so give him some time if you're on the East Coast. Give him some time to do his research, write his articles, and check his models, all that stuff. And then go ahead and tweet him. Tweet him at Matt Amen 123 and find out what he ends up on. Just reach out to him, man. He's a friendly guy. I promise.
Yeah, I don't bite too hard. But anyways, I love the Astros. Like I said, I think they're great plays in cash. They're really fairly priced. And then I think for tournaments, I like the Rangers a lot. I like the Blue Jays. I like the Red Sox, the Nationals. Like I said, the A's for a sneaky stack. There's just so many great spots tomorrow.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I love it. Houston is definitely a team that, as of right now, I have on my cash radar for sure. And I'll play them in tournaments too because I think they have the upside. But in cash games, they feel the safest against Gausman with those reverse splits we talked about. For tournaments, I think Miami's interesting. I think the Mets are interesting. Just from the perspective that, like, even when bad pitchers are in those situations, if on slates like these, they'll always go after the hitters' ballparks because it's optimal and it makes more sense. But when that happens, we'll see how many times do we see in Pittsburgh like a 10-5 type game, just because it just happens, doubles, enough doubles, and they're just as good at home runs after a while. So it's like, so I do have interest in Miami and the Mets for that reason, and in Cleveland as well against Kennedy. Really like E5. Anyway, man, you ready to play some Dong Watch?
I'm ready.
All right, Matt, go ahead, man. Lay it on us, man, with the first pick.
Yeah, I mean, can I really go to Mike Trout after I said how much I like Straley? I just don't think I can do it. So I'll go to my other guy. I'll go to Bryce Harper.
There we go. I'm digging it. I'm digging it with Harper. I am going to go. Let me think about this. George Springer really let me down tonight, but I'm gonna go back to Springer just because I like Houston. And then for my second pick, I'm going to go ahead and go with, let me go with Altuve. And I'll leave you the one Astro.
Well, I'm actually just going to take your boy because he's been hot and cool so bad against lefties. So I'm going to take Conforto.
Oh, no. I did not see that coming. Did not see it coming, man.
Oh, I have one more. Give me Mookie Betts. I think he's ready to hit a home run, and Gallardo's a good guy to do it on.
I'm with you. I'm gonna go with E5. Now I know it's kind of like why because there's so many other good spots, but I really think game theory wise and the position he's in against with Kennedy's reverse splits on the road, I want to test that theory. I want to see how he does. So I'm gonna take E5. All right, Matt, that's pretty much it, man. A lot of games we got through it, brother. I appreciate you coming on, man. It's always fun to do these shows and go a little more in depth when there's just two of us.
Absolutely.
Hey, man. All right, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button. It means a lot to us. Spread the word. Tell some people about us. Get those views up for us. It means a lot, and we're trying to put more and more as much as we can. Give us some feedback. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to the channel. Leave us some positive reviews. We're trying to bump up those charts. We want to pop up in those search engines and all that good stuff. And it's only going to happen if we get some more reviews. So anyway, guys, listen, it's a fun slate. It's a great tournament slate. Try not to overthink it because thinking about it alone will keep you busy. But anyways, Matt, again, thank you, man. And for Matt, for myself, as always, good luck.
Yeah.